every week in the center square on Mondays, you write the week ahead column. We're taping this on a Friday, so we're getting out in front of your writing process. But without question, the headline is, the end of the government shutdown. This past week, Republicans and Democrats came together. Democrats moved across the line and accepted what amounts to be a short-term funding plan that will run, I believe, through January 30th, 2026. 43 days of government inactivity. Some friends of mine said that they didn't notice much of a difference. I can tell you I did, certainly from an air travel standpoint. But it's over now. And what have we learned? Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, for the economy, it's good news, right? The end of a government shutdown is good news. Because, there's all of this foregone economic activity.
Never to be recaptured, right? I mean, what didn't happen.
$11 billion. $11 billion. That's quite a lot of change. Roughly $80 per household. The cost of what just happened. The good news is the economy usually recovers very quickly. After the government shutdown. So that's great. Unfortunately, the markets didn't really react. If you look at the stock market, there's not much of a market reaction.
So, I mean, what do we see from here? I mean, this is a relatively short-term solution. I mean, it's less than a 90-day, funding plan. I saw that I think 3 of the 12 appropriation bills were taken care of as part of this resolution. So military construction and veteran affairs, the FDA and Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, they'll have full funding, for a year, but the other 9, I guess, do not at this point, and that's something that's going to need to be negotiated heading into January. I mean, of course, Congress is not exactly the most active place around the holidays. So it'll be interesting to see, how much work gets done before the end of the calendar year and what the short track into the end of January looks like. Funding for healthcare, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, was a massive sticking point in the conversations. The Republicans want to end subsidies. And, the idea behind this was that the subsidies would be ending at some point. So there's a lot that still has to be done and determined here. Is it feasible, between now and January 30th, that something that significant could actually be accomplished?
I mean, I honestly, I really don't know. I'm somewhat pessimistic about what this administration and Congress, as it stands today, can accomplish together. But here's the good news: we're gonna have access to economic data.
Yeah, that's got to make you feel better about the things that you.
And well, I mean, it's important. It's going to make everyone feel better. It's important because right now the Fed was flying blind, and we got a rate cut decision in December. You could argue part of the reason markets have not doing so well right now, especially those AI stock. Well, look, if you don't get a rate cut in December, right? And so you need a rate cut in December. And the rate cut's in the air right now, right? Yes, we have private sector data that's pointing to a slowing economy, but you have tools like the Atlanta Fed GDP now that's showing the economy is pretty strong. And if the economy is pretty strong, well, what do you need a rate cut for? Well, at the same time, you had a labor market that had stalled essentially, heading into the government shutdown, and private sector activity, private sector metrics showing the labor market's basically not looking great. Hiring remains very low. You're also getting these layoff announcements left and right.
They seem to be, not to say exclusively inside of the tech sector, but it seems like technology companies have taken it perhaps harder, than any other sector, or maybe they're just drawing headlines because, when the tech sector has layoffs, people are like, well, I thought tech was just booming. Maybe it's the way that lands for people.
I heard Verizon 15,000 jobs. Another announcement, right? So yeah. And so you're seeing all that, and you start to ask yourself, okay, well, I wrote about it last week. Something's got to give, is what Fed governor, I almost called him Fed chair because that's my candidate for Fed chair is Christopher Waller. Fed Governor Waller basically says, look, something's got to give. Either the economy is going to slow down, is going to match the pace of the labor market, or the labor market's going to reflect those economic numbers that we're getting, or which is it going to be? And so, my take on this is, I think, you're going to see the economy, those GDP numbers move lower. So that's,
well, on the consumer side, let me ask you this question. And you could just sort of we can sort of wrap this segment or this episode with this. We haven't seen, consumer price index or producer price index numbers now. I believe, we missed 2 reports. Do you have a feeling at this point on inflation? I've read different accounts from different points of view about where inflation is at this juncture. Some people saying that it's down, and other people saying that it's up. Do you have any kind of a read? I mean, again, you're working without economic data, but do you have any read on that at all?
Yeah, look, 40% of core inflation is the CPI. In the CPI is rent. And the rent component is moving lower. So, and my read is, even if you have some temporary price pressures coming from goods, tariffs are not inflationary. Tariffs are disinflationary. They're a tax. I saw this recently, this new paper by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, that shows that, looking at 150 years of history, the result is tariffs actually raise unemployment, right? By lowering economic activity, and actually lower inflation, which is contrary to common knowledge, because essentially you get this one-time hike in prices that slows economic activity. And, it's a tax, just like every other tax works, essentially. And so,
establishing a new norm.
The economy is slowing. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, you take everything that we saw so far, you add some tariffs on top of it. The economy was slowing. By the way, the economy was slowing and inflation was moving lower before the tariffs. Now you add this extra shock. You add a government shutdown, and the economy is slowing. It's going to slow down. You could see it in the labor market already. And that's my concern. And so I think the Fed should cut in December. At least that's my read on it. It's in the air right now. It's basically a coin toss, is the way traders view it. But yeah, I think saving the labor market's important.
I appreciate your thoughts as always, and we're going to pick it up. We'll have more conversation that you and I are going to have today. But I just want to remind everybody to read Orphe's column every Monday at the Center Square, and in your local news outlets that carry the Everyday Economics column. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you listen to Dr. O and me each week on the Center Square Radio Hour.